98, is that correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That sounds about right to me.
And sometimes I had the kind of knack for picking up on stuff, kind of being on the cutting edge sometimes, I think. And a lot of the stuff I picked up in that movie, I think I was one of the first people to write about it, and other people as well. The late
1999. 1999,
oh, okay.
By the way. There you go.
Yeah. And
okay,
so basically the review, and I've, over the years, that review is a good 11 or 12 years old. I've probably forgotten half of what I wrote about, but mainly the stuff I wrote about in that had to do with, it seemed like things I saw in the movie that reminded me of accounts I'd read about monarch mind control programming and illusions to different things like Alice in Wonderland and the Wizard of Oz, and a lot of things that seemed to be slipped into the movie that were pointing at that basically the movie was all about mind control and how we are everyone is manipulated by it, including the Scientologist Tom Cruise is the star of the movie.
Yes, and touching on the idea of secret societies and strange sexual rituals and even weaving in the idea that the Nicole Kidman character in the movie was a mind control victim herself at some point in time. But
it seemed like that. Her character, a lot of this is coming back to me what I wrote about, but she had a lot of different personalities. She'd switch from one to another, and at least according to the mind control literature, that's what happens with a lot of these victims of MK Ultra. Through trauma, different altered personalities are created. Much like Sybil, if you remember that movie, and way back when, that these traumas cause them to split off into different personalities so they can basically get away from the traumatized personality. So with Nicole Kidman's character, I saw several different personalities, and there's like scenes when she was staring into a mirror. That's pretty common with, at least once again, according to the literature, how they go in from one altered state to another by staring into a mirror. There was a lot of masks used throughout the movie to hide personalities and change personalities. A lot of the basically the people involved in the sex magic rituals were masked and their identities were hidden. So there seemed to me a lot of allusions to the monarch mind control programming throughout the movie. Not long afterwards, indeed, Stanley Kubrick did die, and a lot of people pointed to some type of conspiracy that he, was revealing too much too soon. The whole revelation of the method thing, he was bringing it along too fast. That he was some type of insider. William Cooper, the late great conspiracy theorist, had a whole series of audio recordings he did on his old Hour of the Time shortwave radio show, and it was this whole series dedicated to Mystery Babylon, the mystery religions, which became the Illuminati, as he presented the theory. And his first episode dealt specifically with Kubrick's 2001 and all of the Freemasonic imagery in that movie, and how that was really what Kubrick was laying out there, was the whole foundation of how Freemasonry is running the world. Now, I'm not saying I necessarily believe or disbelieve in all this, but it's like that with a lot of these conspiracy theories. When you jump down a rabbit hole and start pursuing one certain angle, a lot of those you're able to connect a lot of dots, and synchronicities start to happen, and things come your way. You could go down numerous rabbit holes with contrary theories, and I think it's just a matter, we were talking about paranoia being a higher form of awareness. When you start looking for certain things and tune your brain to certain wavelengths,
I agree. I agree completely.
Seem to come your way.
Yeah, and of course, through work of other researchers, there is a very strong connection between Masonry and the whole Apollo program, including, the sites where they decided to, set down, and the times of the launch of the rockets and things like this. That does sort of support the idea that there is a kind of like a Freemasonic connection there. And if I'm not mistaken, some other researchers have pointed out that a lot of the people that work at NASA are Masons. So
Downard was on to this early, and I think he was one of the first person to pick up on that. I talked about that Sirius Rising audio series he did with William Grimstead. He was talking about a lot of this stuff, and he pointed out how Neil Armstrong was a 33rd degree Mason who basically conquered the moon for Freemasonry. And a lot of this stuff, Richard Hoagland has talked about it in recent years, but he got a lot of that from James Shelby Downard. So Downard was out there, but he was picking up on stuff.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think that it's probably part of my fascination with kooky people like Downard, and we did a podcast on Francis Deck, who was another amazing kook, amazingly productive person over the years in the later part of the 20th century. Part of the fascination I have with these people is that when you look at what they produce, it's like you said, the idea that the paranoid is a higher level of awareness. It kind of makes you realize that with all things, even the most bizarre, there is some sort of grain of truth behind it. There's something underlying it that gives it the impetus to move in that direction.
And, perhaps all of these weird things are true to some extent, and all these, they're different threads of reality that are moving parallel. That's what paranormal means, or parapolitics. It's these alternate scenarios or things going on that are running parallel to our everyday lives, where we're not really aware of them. And if just consider, the possibility that there are all these alternate realities going on, and they're all true at some level. And if you're somebody who's quote-unquote paranoid, and you're tuning into all of these things that coexist and seemingly are in conflict with one another, but are all true, wouldn't that drive you crazy?
I would think so. I would think so. Yeah. I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft, and one of his most famous quotes that people point to is from, I believe, The Call of Cthulhu, which I can't remember it exactly, but he said basically that the best thing in the world is that people don't know what's really true, because we're better off living in our little island of ignorance here, rather than knowing what the true nature of reality is outside of our limited thought processes.
Yeah, and I have to tune out some of the craziness sometimes, especially in this day and age where there's so much noise coming at you from so many different directions. Sometimes you got to step back and, I don't know, maybe take a walk in the woods and retreat to nature just to get your sanity or meditate or whatever it takes.
Right.
It's a noisy world we live in.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't agree more. Especially, we just had the shooting of the congresswoman and the judge by another guy with 3 names. I'm gonna dub that mind control program Lee, because I mean, here's another guy. His middle name is Lee. And all these assassins all have 3 names, and 3 is of course an important number, not only in Freemasonry but in a lot of religions as well. And I mean, it's just every day you could be completely inundated by both the facts of the world and what you see behind those facts, and I couldn't agree more. You gotta step back every once in a while and just take a breath. Otherwise, you'll end up driving down the highway in a Winnebago with a 45 by your side, like James Shelby Downard, I'm sure. So let's take a minute here. Let me ask you what you're up to right now, and are you working on any projects or thinking about moving in any new directions?
I'm working on a lot of things. Some I can talk about, some I can't talk about. Probably about half a dozen book projects in the works, if you believe that. A lot of it, the material revolves around the Discordian Society. One of the books will be a history of the Discordian Society.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, I was passed on a lot of material, Discordian artifacts that I don't know how familiar you are with the Discordian Society and the history of it.
Well, obviously, I know Kerry Thornley, who you wrote a book about, The Prankster and the Conspiracy. I know he was involved in the development of it, and I have that book. I wanted to have it in front of me so that I could refer to it, because I did want to get into that the topic of Thornley, since you mentioned it right now. And I also, I'm familiar with Robert Anton Wilson and his work with the Illuminatus books, which have a connection with Discordianism.
Yeah. So materials in that vein, as well as working on a book dealing with Thornley and the Kennedy assassination. I came across a lot more materials. I wrote about that a bit in the Prankster, but I'm going to basically take in all the additional material that was passed on to me, and I think this will evolve into a book on Thornley and Oswald and the Kennedy assassination. Then several. There's a number of things. They're kind of in the gestation period, and I don't want to talk too much about them. I'm kind of superstitious. I'm fine. Working on a couple film projects. One of them I talked about seeing Nick Redfern a couple of weeks ago. One deals with we interviewed a bunch of researchers into paranormal and conspiracies out here in California. So the theme of the movie is basically talking to these different researchers and going to some of the more strange and mysterious locales in the Golden State of California, kind of a Weird California type of film with, we have